My name is Jeffrey Davis, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs, and we're always sharing the success of entrepreneurship. Please remember, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, join our LinkedIn group. Also, you can find us with your smartphone app. Just type in Radio Entrepreneurs. And we have our new entrepreneur in the studio, a first-timer, Damon Magnuski, is that right, of PeopleHedge. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Damon, why don't you tell us about PeopleHedge?
Sure. We've spoken to many people and businesses over the last year, and it turns out that when they conduct a foreign exchange, either they're sending home a remittance or they're buying products overseas, they pay over 5.5%, sometimes up to 8 to 10% to do that transaction. And it's a hidden fee from their bank. Mm. And through technology and connections, we're able to do that for 1% or even less. And we think that's a great value proposition for
Now, you were referred to us by the Radio Entrepreneurs Bank, so you work with banks?
Originally, we were going to work exclusively with banks, but now we're going to go direct to people and businesses.
So companies that are doing business overseas. So will you be competing with banks ultimately?
Right. At first, we wanted to add products that were complementary to banks, but it turns out due to Dodd-Frank regulations, that's not possible. So we're going to go direct to customers and compete with banks.
So give me the evolution of how you came up with this process or product, whatever you call it.
Right. So I was working in Chicago at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, where options and futures and currencies and all this kind of stuff are traded at a very large scale. And my mother-in-law at the time, she had a daughter in France that was getting married, and she wanted to send about $20,000. And she said, "Hey, Damon, should I send it today or should I send it in 3 months?" And I was like, well, if I knew that answer, I'd be a gajillionaire. But what I could do is do what a corporation does, hedge the risk. If it moves in your favor, you get the better rate. If it moves against you, you're protected. But it turns out for that sum of money, it's impossible. Banks won't do it. It's too small change. And the contracts at the exchange are for $150,000 plus, so it just doesn't make any sense to do that. So I was like, hey, who else has this problem? College students from foreign countries or U.S. students studying abroad. They have to pay their bills in other currencies. People sending home remittances, and that's not just, low-wage workers. That's doctors or consultants. I used to work for General Electric. I'd be in Japan, get paid in yen.
Yeah.
Terrible when I had to send it back if the exchange rate moved 3 or 4%. That was a pay cut.
You must have a lot of cash at your own reserves to be able to do this, or is that not a factor?
No, it's not a factor at all. It really has to do with aggregation and wholesaling. So a bank wants to do $1 million at a time because then they get what's called the mid-market rate. And that's the best rate in the world. It's like, a tiny percent above what you find on Google.
Right.
Well, when you do a smaller amount, they have to basically hold it and wait. Like you're saying, they have these reserves of cash and they try and balance it. And because you're doing a small amount, they just say, hey, we're just going to charge you more because we can. But in reality, if you, with the use of technology, you could just aggregate these people into lump transactions and then do one batch at the end of the day. And then you get the wholesale rate for everybody. And banks already know how to do it, but they have a sales structure and a cost structure that forces
overhead.
them.
They have
right,
overhead.
Exactly. They have huge overhead that's like, hey, we have to make money.
So why aren't others, or are others doing this?
Oh, right. So there have been some technological changes in the last year that have opened this up. So we've always intended to do it. And really the goal is to match flows worldwide. So if there's somebody here sending money to England, and then there's a business in England paying for, imports from the United States, you try and match those transactions up, and then nobody has to really pay a fee. We just can charge a real tiny fee. But in order to get to that scale, you have to be pretty big and operational. So it's really hard there's no intermediate step.